Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and join me once again is Shea Dixon. Also in person for this podcast. I don't know what order we're uploading this, but regardless, we have a freshman podcast.
This one's first.
All right, well, here's a transfer portal podcast. We'll also stay tuned for a freshman signing class podcast on the way as well. But we are here to talk about the transfer portal. It's our first portal podcast of the year. A lot has already happened, and from players leaving, players coming in, rumors, visits, everything.
Yeah.
We're going to cover it in like under 20 minutes. So
I will say we can crunch it all down and condense it. For $1 right now, you can get onto the Bengal Tiger, become a member.
Yes.
We've had a ton of new members join, so thank you to everyone who signed up. If you go to thebengaltiger.com, go to On3 or find LSU's page, fan site, The Bengal Tiger, Google it, go to my Twitter, you'll find links. But we've been grinding Matty B, and
Yes.
people of LSU fans have been joining in because a lot of people are so interested in who does Brian Kelly's come out and said, I'm being aggressive in the portal. He's now come out and said, I'll match up to $1 million donation to TAF, and which are obviously collective-based and NIL-based, and that plays into the portal. All of these things were in this new era. Who did they go out and get? $1 on the Bengal Tiger. Thanks so much to everyone who signed up. And if you have not yet, and you're an LSU fan listening to this, just treat yourself. Treat yourself. It's holiday season's $1. It'll get you a week. If you don't like it, you can cancel. I promise you will. And then you can stick around for a cup of coffee a month, basically. So with the holidays here, maybe give a gift, whatever it is. But portal season is here, Matty B. And the very first edition is in. Bauer Sharp from Oklahoma. He's a tight end. He was their starter this year. He led Oklahoma in receiving yards and had been at he's from Alabama.
Yep.
Had been at Southeastern Louisiana playing prior to this. Signed at quarterback, moved to tight end. Did well enough at tight end for OU to offer him, and then he was OU's starting tight end out of the portal this past year. So immediately, like Hugh Freeze was trying to get him to come back home to Alabama from Auburn. But he pops for LSU. Again, led Oklahoma in receptions and receiving yards. They had like 1 million receivers hurt, so they had to rely on. And they were playing quarterback roulette.
They were struggling.
It was bad, but 42 catches, 324, 2 touchdowns. We expect him to add multiple tight ends in this class, and they want some inline guys. That doesn't mean only blocking, but it just means Kamorian Pimpton left. Before the season started, Mac Markway left. Mm-hmm. You've lost some guys. Mason Taylor's now gone to the NFL. You've got Trey'Dez Green, who you've sort of already committed to being this like slot wide receiver, which he should be, this 6'6" freak mismatch tight end. Now you need more of your normal inline prototypical tight ends. They'll take a couple.
Guys who can do both.
The first in is Sharp. Did you watch any OU this year?
Yeah, yes, we do watch
it was painful.
OU. Yes, we watched some OU. And I do think that he can do both. He's not an all-SEC player. Like you said, they're going to go get multiple tight ends. I think that this is checking off a box that they needed. This is checking off a box to set the foundation for, all right, at the very least we have this to move forward with as we go into the portal. And we can be more aggressive now with a Luke Haas or whoever else from the portal at tight end. We can try to go get some of the top guys. But you had to go get at least one player here that you were going to be like, this guy can come in and help us immediately. And whether he's great or just good or average, he can help us at a position of need, which is what LSU's in right now.
He's already caught a pass in Death Valley. He's also thrown a pick in Death Valley. They were unraveling in that game when they got beat 37-17, but Sage Ryan, who's now in the portal, headed elsewhere. His final big moment at LSU came when Sharp said, look, we're down by 20. I got to do some, just throw it up, throw it downfield, and Sage was there to pick it. But this is the start of what I think will be a double-digit addition through the portal, Matty B. Before we pour into kind of the rest of the guys that we have at the very top of our list, remember, today's the December 13th, day 5. Portal opened on December 9th. It runs to the 28th, and you only have to have your name in by the 28th. You can still take visits or make visits. You can decide on your college transfer, all that after that if you want to. You just got to be in by the 28th. That being said, right now, Matty B, we are at 16 LSU players
in the portal.
who have entered the portal. I'm not sure if that number is right for you in your head.
Where's our tracker?
I'm on the tracker. 16.
Yeah.
Quarterback Ricky Collins, wide receiver Landon Ibieta and C.J. Daniels, Deshaun Womack, who's since signed with Ole Miss, former 5-star edge rusher, who just didn't play. I mean, he played 100 snaps this year.
Well,
he was behind Braden Swinson and played 79
play the last
year
3
prior.
games of the year.
And he didn't travel to Florida,
so
one of the biggest games of the year. So some other stuff clearly going on there.
Yeah.
Jordan Allen at safety, another receiver, and Shelton Sampson, Kylan Jackson at safety, Adkins at linebacker, a couple of Ohio State transfers at corner, Jair Brown and J.K. Johnson, Bernard Causey, a freshman at corner, a punter in Nathan Dibert, kicker who had kind of played that backup role. Demirian Johnson, after 1 year here as a D lineman, didn't play in a game, so he transferred. Pimpton at tight end, you kind of have him and Trades Green at 6'6", are very similar. Suggs with 1 year left as a backup D lineman, even though he was very good when he got in the game.
He flashed,
didn't play him a lot.
Yeah.
And then most recently, Sage Ryan, who, let's give Sage some kudos. I mean, he started in 9 of 12 games, and I think he played like 500-something snaps this year. And he did it at corner, then at safety, 42 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, sack, some forced fumbles, 3 of them. He had that pick on Bauer Sharp, and then 6 passes broken up.
I mean, heck, he was probably the best of the 3 safeties.
Honestly, he was.
Ryan, I mean, he had some moments he had some games in coverage. I thought he was actually really
they're
good.
Heavy after portal safeties too.
So now you look at the safety position.
I read you 16 names. Which one shocks you the most? No, not shocks. Which one's the biggest impact on this team?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone shocks
me. It's clear cut to me the biggest impact.
The biggest impact, C.J. Daniels.
100%.
Yeah, C.J. Daniels.
It was evident when he didn't play this year that they had to change up things. Yeah. Now, they'll have a different roster next year.
Yes.
We'll talk about some receivers that are in on here in a second, but I agree. It's got to be Daniels, right?
Yeah, that was the one surprising one because there was, a clear line of him coming in next year and being a contributor and having an even better year than he had this year.
Then he started this year. It wasn't like he was on the bench.
Yeah, and he had close to 500 yards this past season. So C.J. Daniels is the one surprising one. We weren't surprised at Shelton Sampson entering the portal. Are there any other receivers I'm missing here? Kamorian Pimpton. Ibieta. Like, none of those really surprised me. I know
they're looking for playing time.
Pimpton had some receptions late, and in my head, it was always like, they're getting him on the field. They're playing him to maybe keep him around.
I thought it was get him on the field. He was suddenly in the last 2 weeks. He was in a lot when he wasn't in previously, and it was like, all right, he's clearly already talked to them about like I might leave. They're like, oh well, let's get you out there and play some.
Yeah. But Trades Green is just
he's
better player. And like that's just to be blunt about it. Like Trades Green is.
They're both
that
good
guy.
players.
They are both good. I don't want to discreat. I think Pimpton is actually going to go somewhere.
Yeah, he's going to ball out.
He's going to produce like Jack Best did. Like, but Trades Green is that separator type of talent that we've always known of. So that's not a shock, but it is going to be interesting to see how they do revamp the pass game, and we'll talk about some receiver targets they do have coming up. But that is the one, if you look at it, C.J. Daniels, he'll go somewhere, he will produce. Again, he's not some first round or he's second round type receiver, but he's a good college player that will help a team this year. Other than that,
16 guys have left, 2 starters, Sage and C.J. Daniels. And look, C.J. Daniels was coming off a Jamie Chadwell offense at Liberty where he was a 1,000-yard receiver and 10 touchdowns. He caught 500 receiving yards and didn't have a touchdown. They tried to get him one at the end.
Did.
Lacey got caught for the illegal screen. Great player. I think he's just trying to think, hey, how can I get back somewhere where I'm putting up those type of numbers?
Yeah. I think scroll back down. I'm trying to remember who I just saw that I was going to talk about briefly. I know, Jordan Allen, Xavier Atkins, Kylan Jackson. I will say Kylan Jackson and Xavier Atkins are probably 2 that LSU fans were like wanted to see more of next year.
Yeah.
Because I do think Atkins has the talent level to play at an SEC school in the future and as he continues to develop. So that's one. And then Kylan Jackson, in-state 4-star guy that honestly a lot of people, including myself, were very high on out of high school. Just in 2 years at LSU, just hasn't been able to get on the field. So it's kind of is what it is now, and LSU is going to go get experienced guys out of the portal. And if Jackson didn't think that he was going to be able to play over them, or if maybe he just didn't like the situation, it doesn't matter. But yeah, those are probably two that LSU fans.
There's
wish had
always
stayed.
so much more going on behind the scenes that we
for
don't
sure.
know. Like, what do the coaches think of these guys?
Exactly.
And like, when you have exit conversations at the end of the season, they're very blunt about here's where you are, here's what you have to do, and here's how much you'll be playing.
Yes.
And if that doesn't match up with what a kid views in the penalty-free transfer era, it's very easy to just be like, okay, then I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Then you toss NIL into it. What if they're saying, well, I want more NIL? Well, we only view you as this right now type of player, which would slot into this is every school right now. So wild, wild west is what we're in until it gets kind of curtailed some.
You can do ad read.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get an ad read in. Game Time. You guys know Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use the code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. It is the best ticketing app out there. I use it all the time. I just used it to go watch Tulane play at Thanksgiving. Using it again here for some Christmas stuff. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, ON3, ON3, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. The Saints are also playing Jaden Daniels. If you want to go, I've been checking that out for maybe a little like sneak over to New Orleans on Sunday.
People are not going to watch the Saints play. They'll go watch Jaden
No, the Saints
play.
need to lose so we can get a high draft pick.
Yes, that is.
Quit winning.
They've won a couple now.
Quit winning.
So people are going to go over there and root for Jaden Daniels even harder now. But yeah, Game Time. Shout out to them. Always been a sponsor of ours.
Playoffs coming up. Bowl games coming up. Yeah. The Texas Bowl, which in Houston a lot of LSU fans are going to be going to. Make sure you hit up Game Time and LSU basketball, men's and women's.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. I got to go catch a flight to go over to that game
Hurry,
against SMU.
Maddie B. That's why we're rushing through this pod
on Saturday. So here we are. Let's talk about some of the. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll take it first because we just talked about C.J. Daniels.
Yes.
You lost Kyron Lacey.
Yeah.
What he's done eligibility wise. He's going to the NFL. You lost Mason Taylor, tight end, who led the in program history for tight ends in receiving yards and catches by tight end. And you've lost now C.J. Daniels to the transfer portal. Aaron Anderson is the only one returning in the top 4 who in receiving yards. So you've lost 3 of your top 4 receiving yard production guys from this past season. That makes the portal important for wide receivers. I think they take at least a few. I think they go to more than 2. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 3.
Wow.
You think about usually have 12. They were already short on numbers, and now you've had Ibieta, Sampson, all these guys enter.
And you only added Francis and Wright, right?
Philip Wright and Teron Francis.
Yeah, so no, you do make a good point. No, yeah, I hadn't thought of it in that regard. I always knew 2 was the goal, and then 3 is an interesting number as well because it's definitely plausible, especially if you can go get a younger guy with a couple years left, or if you just want to go get a guy with 1 year. I think. We've looked at some of the receivers throughout the transfer portal, and the one that continues to come up is Brune Brown. And at the time of recording this, he is not committed.
But my pick is in.
Yes, the RPM picks are in, and we expect LSU to get him. And at the very least, Brune Brown adds the speed that this
Let's
team
preface
needs.
this by saying this. We are confident enough in Brune Brown coming out of Kentucky, who they couldn't throw the ball for anything this year. But when he had Will Levis, he was a 1,000-yard receiver. He came into the year as a preseason All-American, first team.
In 3 years, he has 1,500-plus yards at Kentucky.
We feel good enough about Brune Brown, who visited LSU this week and has not scheduled any other visits. I think no matter – you could be listening to this, and he might already be announced. We'll see. But then I made Matthew do a full film study and breakdown. So give us the short synopsis. Because when I asked you – and look, I'm leaning – firmly that Chris Hilton comes back.
Yeah.
Knowing that even, you said he's the fastest player on LSU's team immediately. That's not Jelani Watkins.
Not Jelani Watkins, yeah. Other than that, but he was a state champion track runner at the high school level. Like, this is a guy who was running well under 10.7, 10.6 type of times in the 100, under 22 in the 200. Like, that type of speed, and that's exactly what we talked about. C.J. Daniels was a steadying force, a very reliable player, but they just didn't have that top end playmaking because Hilton missed almost the entire year. Right? They didn't have that top end speed. Now, regardless of Hilton being healthy or not, he should be on the field, and hopefully, knock on wood, he can play a lot this next year. But you still have Brune Brown, who I think is now a huge upside play on the perimeter because, like you said, Kentucky this past 2 years, really, after Will Levis, has not been able to throw the ball really for a ton of yardage, and he's still been able to make some plays. Now, he's also more so than he's a hybrid of like Hilton and Xavier Thomas because he did have a lot of those gadget plays, a lot of sweeps, a lot of screens.
He was the AP's first team All-SEC all-purpose back.
Yeah, like he even had snaps out of the backfield at running back where they would flank him out. And again, kind of like a Xavier Thomas in that regard, but he is faster than Xavier Thomas. I think Xavier Thomas, I looked it up, ran like 11.1 in the 100 in high school, which is fast, but it's not,
He's faster than that now,
yeah.
probably, but yeah.
But it's like,
This is elite
This
speed.
is elite speed where you can pair him with a Hilton, and now you can take the top off defenses, how LSU needs to take the top off defenses next year. So that's a good get.
You talk about 1,500 career yards in the SEC, more than 120 catches, double-digit touchdowns, all that. Xavier Thomas was brought in to play receiver and be the return specialist. Then we see Aaron Anderson house one. He was insane as a return specialist in high school. Both these guys, Aaron Anderson and Xavier Thomas, have played for two different SEC teams, State and Bama, respectively. Now they're here. Brown, if he goes to LSU, will be playing for his second SEC team. He's more accomplished than both of them in the return game. He is now the SEC's holds the record for kickoff return touchdowns with 5.
5 is a crazy number.
Especially when everybody usually can kick it out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah, I think he had 2 this past year, unless I'm misremembering.
So he's a freak who can do it in every little level of the field.
The competition for kick returner and punt returner and all the return men is going to be incredible.
No fair catches.
No fair catches. That's going to be incredible. But yeah, Barry Brown is a guy who I think immediately helps this offense just with his speed and. We'll see what the upside is. But I think at the very, very least, he is incredibly fast, and you put him on the field with Garrett Nussmeier, and that should be a good recipe.
I've got an On3 RPM pick in as well for Jakeem Jackson out of Florida, who also, like Brown, visited this week. He started a couple games for Florida this year, got injured, and then decided, hey, look, I'm going to, instead of coming back, he did what West Weeks did, said, I can come back, but I'd burn a red shirt. I'm going to red shirt, and I'm going to transfer out of here. Yeah. Let the Florida staff know that as soon as the portal opened, he hit. The ties there when that year and a half 2 years without Corey Raymond, when they went a decade with Corey Raymond as a secondary coach, then bring him back, he was at Florida, and it paid off here. I think that now both of LSU starting quarterbacks are going to come as a result of Corey being at Florida. Because he made a connection with DJ Pickett, the number 1 corner in the country, and then he signs him. Yeah. He's a day 1 starter for me. Jakeem Jackson was the number 3 corner in America 2 years ago. Yeah. And when Corey found him, he was a 3-star. By the end of it, he's on 3, he's number 3 corner, signed to play with Corey at Florida, played there. Then this past season, Corey's not there, and he says, hey, I'm going to take a red shirt. Yeah. And immediately hit the portal and immediately visited LSU. So you can see that he wants to be, even as a Sunshine State native, back with Corey Raymond and playing there. I think that if they get Jakeem Jackson out of Florida, which, again, like Barry Brown, I think could happen whenever. He doesn't even have other visits planned right now. That's another instant starter at the biggest position of need on the team, if not one of them. If you just lump DB together, like corner and safety, by far. Yeah.
You have those positions of need.
SEC starters.
Yes.
And Bauer Sharp, SEC starter at Oklahoma.
Yeah. So you have 3...
out of the gates, one signee and 2 guys we feel best about are all coming from SEC schools where they started.
Yes. Is there an RPM in for the Virginia Tech center?
Yes, we all made picks this morning. Yes. So Braylon Moore, who entered as Virginia Tech center, he had played guard at one point. Immediately the buzz went to LSU, and this comes on the heels of Emory Jones saying he's going pro, so you are replacing 4 of your 5 starters. And if people say, well, can DJ Chester struggled as a freshman center? Many people do. Yeah. Either you build on that and you let him go again next year, or you put it, if you can get Braylon Moore out of Virginia Tech, who is right now the number 2. I think he could finish as the number 1 O-lineman in the portal regardless of position. He's that good. Yeah. Great run blocker, too. Put him at center. Move DJ Chester to guard. Yeah. We've already talked about Karius Kern. Brian Kelly said Karius Kern, a true freshman, is probably going to come in and start right away, like compete to start. Yeah. He's going to be a 5-star on 3 when the final rankings are done. He's already inside the top 30. He's the number 2 interior O-lineman in the country. That's right there. If you got a Braylon Moore, that would do so much to say, okay, he could be your center. Yeah. Then you can move Chester to guard if you felt that was the need. Then you could play Kern at guard. We know Tyree Adams got talked up so much. He was a top 100 player. Man came off of the hospital room bed and said he did a Instagram like, see y'all next season. And 2 weeks later, he was on the field in an emergency situation to play at guard. Weston Davis, they flipped from A&M, 5-star offensive tackle. Those two could be your tackles. Or you go and find another guy in the portal. In addition to maybe getting a Braylon Moore, you get two guys. You feel a lot better than you felt when you just look at it on paper and say, oh, wait, 4 of the 5 guys are gone, and the only one back is the person who struggled to learn the new position this year as a freshman. I think they've got this one figured out. They recruited 3 straight years of elite guys. Like, it's time. I know people love the portal, but I want to see Weston Davis. I want to see Tyree Adams.
Yes, should both be on
Let's
the
see Carius Kern.
Yeah.
You got 3 straight years out of Will Campbell and Emory Jones at tackle because you made the decision to say, let them out there as true freshmen. They're talented.
So when it comes to any other needs, when we wrap this up, any other, like you said, they'll look at more another tight end and a receiver, offensive line. Probably still add one more. You'd say one, maybe,
Yeah, I think they could get to 2 linemen, and certainly a couple tight ends,
and then safety probably.
Safety's a big one, and Zechariah Poyser out of Jacksonville State's their number 1 target. But remember, it's only day 5 here. So many more guys are going to go in. You hear about it through back channels, so. They're going to take a couple safeties. Watch for Nick Anderson. He's going to visit Oklahoma. He's coming out of Oklahoma as a receiver. A&M and LSU are getting visits. A&M and LSU could also get back-to-back visits out of Micah Hudson from Texas Tech. But the RPM picks for Hudson are in for the Aggies ahead of these visits. Did they split those two? Does Nick Anderson end up at LSU? If you got Barry Brown and Nick Anderson,
huge.
And then I've got more names right now. If you go on Friday, there's a story behind the scenes of another guy who I feel very good about them getting back to this team as a wide receiver, not coming out of the SEC, but then another SEC player is going to come in and make a visit this past weekend or this coming weekend, a Louisiana native at that. So stay tuned. They had Will Helt, one of the best edge rushers in campus.
A couple of edge rushers.
And today they have Jamari Butler out of Nebraska, Mobile, Alabama native, on campus. He had 22 tackles, 7 for loss, 2 sacks, fumble recovery, very productive. So, you lost Womack, but you've got some guys like this out there that
edge is definitely a position that they'll add players, and it's a need at this point for them to add a couple.
I added an edge and a DN too that I think LSU fans should pay attention to the story. So go check that one out. It's called LSU Transfer Portal Tidbits, LSU On3 RPM picks, and more. You get it for $1, Matty B, if they sign up. So.
Yes. All of this and a lot more is on the Bengal Tiger On3. We thank you all for joining us. We'll be back at some point in the coming weeks with another Portal podcast.
We'll do one every week for sure, if not multiple.
Yeah. And this will be our first one, so check out the signing class podcast we'll have out after this as well. We thank you all for joining us. Subscribe to the Bengal Tiger On3 if you haven't already. Subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already. And we will talk to you all later.